Word. March. Route steps. March. Everybody, please have a seat. Trustee Zamora.
Madam President, members of the board, I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. Trustee Williams.
I'll second.
Trustees, we have a motion by Trustee Zamora, a second by Trustee Williams. Which has your vote? Thank you, colleagues. That motion passes 7-0. Okay, we're now moving on to consent agenda. Colleagues, before I open the consent agenda, is there anyone who has not had a chance to complete the yellow public speaker card? If you have not, please do so now. We're going to start with individuals who called in advance. We have two individuals, Mr. Bayless, James Bayless, and Autumn Tampa.
Hey, James Bayless for the record. I'd love to like to have a copy submitted. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So this, I'm pretty much wanting to, I just came here up here mainly to address 213. I kind of find it disgusting that on our agendas we're attacking trustees when a lot of trustees were openly vocal about going after others people on our board, and they weren't too happy about it. So I did some inquiry into the Attorney General's office, which is referring to 213. Isn't it weird that all the people I spoke to never heard your names before? They don't even know what this is referring to. And if you look in that package, you'll see who works in the Attorney General's office. And ironically, Linda's his boss. You can't be going after that. It's in the package. So the fact that our Director of Compliance also works in the Attorney General's office, and everybody I spoke to in the Attorney General's office doesn't know Linda, and the only person that ties to the Attorney General's office and our school board would be Daniel Lee Bahar. So, do you think that's a retaliation for that statement that you made for not following federal compliance factor? Because that would have been talking about it. That could be definitely a retaliation factor. It's kind of what I'm seeing on this. Because, again, she was speaking out of heat, granted, but the factor is the school hasn't been following federal compliance, and if it's talking about him, you shouldn't be able to retaliate on the very people we voted up here. He got a job by somebody giving it to him. All you ladies came up here because we wanted you here. Nobody, according to what I know from the AG's office and a lot of people in our district, nobody really fit in here, but we can't get rid of him. Working on that, but the factor is nobody in the AG's office knows this lady's name. And on 213, it says the Attorney General's office played up. There's one person involved. Okay.
Mr. Bayless, we are not ladies, we are trustees. You can refer to us as well. Ms.
Actually, there are a few ladies, not many.
Autumn Tampa, speaking as an individual. I'm referencing a couple different items here. I think I'm not real familiar with the actual open meeting laws as they are written, which is something that I do want to become more aware of, because to me, you know, there's a purpose for open meeting law, and that purpose is so that the public can actually be at the meeting, participate in public comment. And unfortunately, I work a full-time day job in a school with children. So when things are changed or when they're in the daytime, like your working meetings, I can't come. And I was looking at the legal findings, and it supposedly what you guys did was okay, and it might have been legally okay. But slavery at one time was legal. It was okay, but it wasn't morally or ethically right. And so I think that that's what we have to look at when we are looking at open meeting laws, public comment times, and determinations that affect the public who want to be a part of this. It's difficult now, more difficult for people to come, more difficult for the public to speak. That is not the spirit of these meetings. You can rubber stamp stuff, you can push it through, but if you don't have the intention to do what's right, I don't care what the law says, to be quite honest. I will follow the law because I have to, but that doesn't mean I will like it or agree with it or like what you're doing. You also have the option to go above and beyond the law, above and beyond the regulations. You can do more in order to service your constituents, in order to service the children of Clark County. And you're not doing more. You've gradually done less and less and less. And I'm not really sure why. And certain people who are on the board, trustees, voted to give us less. And I don't understand that. And I have not gotten a good explanation. So yeah, we're talking about open meeting laws and determinations. And I am going to be looking into if there are some legal actions that myself and others can take. But even if we can't, I still think the intention of what you guys are doing is important. And you might not like what I say, but it's important that I have the right to say it, as does every other constituent and community member. Thank you.
Binder?
Anna Binder for the record. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Direct. I'll just do a little continuation because I will never forget sitting in this room when we got the OML violation, when public comment was entirely ripped from our community during the pandemic. And I'll never forget people on the dais going, well, it's done now, it's fixed. Like, no big deal. There was no punishment for that. There was no public discussion about it. It's like thousands of parents screaming up and down about it, but it's all done, it's taken care of. And now here we are, 2023, you can't see our faces. I've gone across the country and I have watched literally like 40 school board meetings. Nobody's faces are blacked out. That's only a Clark County thing. It's ridiculous. It's about as ridiculous as how you've restricted us from even commenting even tonight on presentations that have to deal with our children's growth, teachers and staff's work, and nobody can comment on it. We have to wait till the end. How is that in the spirit of anyone being able to stand here and represent our children or their jobs or what they're going through when we're going to get a beautiful presentation, but nobody can say a word but trustees? But really what I wanted to complain about tonight is in 2.08 in our purchase awards, I thought the conversation that was going to be had about hiring a company for the climate survey would have been done pursuant to competitive bid. However, I'm looking at the documents tonight, it wasn't. It went straight through the office of the superintendent to one company. They claimed the statutory, what do they call it, waiver, that you don't have to get an RFP for it. This company doesn't even operate in the state of Nevada. It has 2 offices in Florida, amongst many others. But here we go, Florida again. And I just really want to know, and I'm extremely irritated as I left my SOT meeting at my son's middle school today to find out that we have to lose 2 teachers at a Title I Tier 1 school over $100,000 in our budget that's not there now. And this board is going to blow $274,000 for a survey. So that's actually what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 teachers that we're letting go from campuses, and then we're going to spend that money on a survey. And then you're going to talk about graduation rates and math growth testing.
All right, Trustee Bustamante Adams, please read the warrants. We're now moving on past consent. Oh, that's right. Thank you. Well, that's all public comment at this moment in time. Trustee Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
you, trustee Brooks, trustee Williams.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Brooks, a second by trustee Williams. Members, please cast your ballot. Motion passes 7-0. Now we will officially move on to the warrants. Trustee Samantha Adams.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Ratified warrants as listed in the bills payable transmittal and board memorandum number 11-22-23 in the total amount of 245,226,140.79.
Thank you, trustee Samantha Adams. Now we'll move on to item 3.01. Dr. Garrett.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This is an update. I wanted to level set. We all level set on this presentation. This is the first this annual year. This year on our graduation rates following our Focus 2024. I know that the board last year evaluated the 3 goals. But this is part of the overall, right? That we, as a school district, did not focus on just the 3 goals that the board set. So we were working as well on our strategic plan Focus 2024. So we would ask to Dr. Mansell and Mr. Manzi to go through the presentation. This would be a formal vote because afterwards, the discussion. This is the first for the following board policy. Be adopted here. So,
Thank you, Superintendent Jara. Before I turn it over to to the team, I want to make sure that I open this item up and give anybody a chance who has not had a moment to complete the yellow card for public comment. Please submit that now before we officially get started, because as Dr. Jara mentioned, this is an action item.
Let's say it's an action item in the agenda. Not enough.
The agenda. I don't want to have to remind our audience that we asked for decorum. It's difficult to live under decorum or be courteous, and may have to have another conversation. This time we're moving on with item 3.01, which is an action item under the agenda. Thank you, Dr. Jara. Dr. Mansell, or Manzi, welcome.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, for the record, Dustin Mansell, Chief Academic Officer. I am joined by Greg Manzi, our Assistant Superintendent of the Assessment, Accountability, Research, and School Improvement Division. We are here to provide an update on Clark County School District's graduation rates. The 4-year high school graduation rate contributes to the vision of the Board of School Trustees within student success, focusing on achievement in core content areas. Previous board presentations related to the 4-year high school graduation rate occurred during the regular board meeting held on January 9th, 2020, and during the regular board meeting held on February 10th, 2022. The 4-year high school graduation rate is measured on the Nevada School Performance Framework. Most recently, the 4-year high school graduation rate accounts for 25 of 30 possible points in the graduation indicator of the Nevada School Performance Framework, with the other 5 points allocated to the extended 5-year rate. The 4-year high school graduation rate is calculated based on the number of students who graduate with a regular diploma within 4 years of beginning high school. In other words, once a student enters grade 9, they have 4 years or less to meet the graduation requirements established for their cohort or group of students. The requirement in Nevada includes obtaining the required credits and participation in the College and Career Readiness State Assessment, which currently is the ACT with writing. The class of 2022, the state defines 4 regular diplomas. These diplomas include standard, advanced, alternative, and college and career ready. Distinction is made between each diploma in required credits and coursework, GPA requirements, and criteria outlined for demonstrating college readiness or career readiness. The calculation of the graduation rate for the class of 2022 was revised by the Nevada Department of Education to remove the adult diploma from counting as a regular diploma based on guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. Historically, the adult diploma accounted for more than 100 students included as graduates. The calculation for the class of 2022 includes the establishment of the student cohort when the student first enters grade 9. Students included in the class of 22 cohort entered grade 9 in the fall of 2018. Students may get added or removed from the cohort. For example, if they transfer into or out of another diploma granting school or immigrate to another country. Our theory of action includes, if we continue to provide expanded credit opportunities for students and effective monitoring tools for guiding student progress, the four-year graduation rate will increase. Expanded credit opportunities include a focus on increasing enrollment in Algebra 1 and Geometry in middle schools, summer learning through Summer Acceleration, secondary summer schools, and Nevada Learning Academy. And we will continue to provide these summer learning opportunities for all students during summer 2023. As a district, we are investing in common instructional materials and pacing guides, most recently with the adoption of Tier 1 instructional materials in mathematics and science, again funded through ESSER. This provides our students with the needed consistency of access to high-quality instructional materials used to support Tier 1 instruction across all campuses. As we know, many of our students will relocate throughout the academic year. Monitoring tools continue to be refined to assist in tracking student progress and adjusting student schedules accordingly. Academic plans in the student information system provide course plans and real-time progress of individual students towards the graduation requirements, including each area of study, assessment requirements, and college and career ready diploma requirements. Additionally, the Grade Reform Initiative, approved by the Board of School Trustees in July 2021, is providing advanced opportunities for students to demonstrate their knowledge as we implement an equitable grading scale and remove behaviors from our academic grades.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jar, Greg Manzi for the record. Here we have the results of the graduation rates over the last 4 cohorts, included for the district and the indicated student group. For the class of 2022, we observe an increase in the district graduation rate from the previous year from 80.9% to 81.3%, even with the change in the business rules described earlier. We observe an increase in the graduation rate for most student groups, with the exception of the American Indian, Alaskan Native, Black African American, and 2 or more races. In December 2022, the board received an update on advanced coursework, including AP, dual enrollment, and career and technical education, or CTE. It is important to understand the impact of students engaged in advanced coursework. Graduation rates are also reported by the state for students that were ever enrolled in a CTE program. The graduation rate for CTE students is consistently over 90%, most recently at 92.1%. Continued investment in advanced coursework options will better prepare our students for future success. Aligned to the board report status indicators, here we can see the aligned results for the class of 2022 in comparison to the 2021-2022 targets. Results are displayed for the ethnic student groups as well as English language learners, students eligible for special education, and Title I schools. The Nevada Department of Education defines the English language learners and students eligible for special education student groups as students that have ever had the designation in their 4 years in high school. This is important to note as the student groups represented do include students that may have exited the service during their 4 years of high school. The gap for the class of 2022 is 26.1 percentage points and is represented by the rate of the Asian student group at 92.9% and the students eligible for special education student group with a rate of 66.8%. Both students groups demonstrate a year-over-year improvement of the rate, leading to a narrowing of the gap. We have invested in the improvement of student group outcomes using ESSER funds for Project Pueblo, designed for teachers to earn their English language learner endorsement, and through compensating educators for the completion of universal design professional learning. Comparison graduation rates are provided for context of the district rates of the last 4 cohorts. The rate increase for the state matches the rate increase for the district when comparing the class of 2021 to the class of 2022. The Washoe County School District experienced an increase from 82.5% to 84.4%, representing a 1.9 percentage point increase. In general, results of the comparison district remain stable over the 4-year comparison period. At the time of the presentation preparation, the class of 2022 rates were not available for all comparison districts. We acknowledge the challenges, successes, and lessons learned as we reflect on the results. We desire to have increasing graduation rates on an annual basis. We've lacked a consistency with the implementation of Tier 1 instruction. We know that having solid instruction in which 85 to 90% of students should be successful will lead to increased results and reduced overrunning resources that can support students with Tier 2 and Tier 3 academic needs. This is critical and connects to the next challenge, the lack of consistency with the implementation of multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS. A sound system serves the students' academic, behavioral, and social emotional needs, contributing to the development of successful students prepared for graduation. Additionally, we have not historically had a consistent focus on designing master schedules to maximize opportunities for all students in advanced coursework. Our focus is on how we can meet student interests through advanced course offerings, such as AP, dual enrollment, and CTE, especially with the history of graduation rates that exceed the overall rate. Even with the challenges, we can find success in that we continued expanded credit opportunities through summer programming. We also observe an increase in the number of students with an advanced and alternative diploma in the most recent reporting. A part of the continuous improvement process and reflection of results, we developed lessons learned and a plan for the necessary adjustments. These lessons connect directly to our challenges. We recognize that we provide systems and structures to improve Tier 1 instruction and the implementation of MTSS. We also learned that we need to establish expectations and professional learning to implement consistent master scheduling practices and utilize enhanced monitoring tools for course enrollment and graduation benchmarks, contributing to best meet our students' needs and increase the graduation rate on an annual basis. With the adjustments in place, we arrive at our revised theory of action. If we provide high quality Tier 1 instruction and Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions for students through MTSS and effective monitoring tools for guiding student progress, the 4-year graduation rate will increase. Monitoring tools continue to be refined to assist in tracking student progress and adjusting student schedules accordingly, as mentioned during the December 2022 presentation regarding advanced coursework. Academic plans in the student information system provide course plans and real-time progress of students' individual needs towards the graduation requirements, including each area of study, assessment requirements, and the college and career ready diploma requirements. Our next steps include monitoring student academic plans and progress towards graduation with counselors, curriculum administrators, and other building leaders. We engage leaders and educators in professional learning to strengthen Tier 1 instruction, including professional learning communities, MTSS, and master scheduling. We engaged high school principals and individualized master scheduling conferences for a review and design of best fit advanced coursework opportunities for all students. This focus on program design will assist schools in maintaining student engagement and learning, leading to an increase in the work completion and credits obtained for graduation. Additionally, we are implementing consistent master scheduling timelines and processes to maximize opportunity for students to earn required credits. For those students that may need additional time, we are maintaining summer programming opportunities for students to master skills and concepts and retrieve credit.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chara, for the record, Dustin Mansell. Thank you for this opportunity to share the high school graduation rate update. We will pause and take any questions the board may have at this time.
Excellent. Colleagues will take a discussion from the board and then we will take public comment. I see trustee Williams is in the queue. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for this report. I appreciate it. It's always nice to get an update to kind of see where we're at. My only question is actually on your challenges slide. You said that there's a lack of consistency in implementation. Have you identified which levels those are at and what your goals are to, I guess, fix those challenges that you're currently having?
Madam President, members of the board,
Here we go.
Dr. Larson Mitchell.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Brenda Larson Mitchell for the record. Last summer, we implemented our tier 1 expectations. We provided professional learning for principals. We also created some observation tools. We have a tier 1 monitoring tool that we use. So principals, supervisors, and Dr. Mansell, Mr. Manzi, we all have access to that tool. So when we go out to classrooms, we're identifying specific components to help us measure where we are with the implementation of tier 1. And so we use that data to focus PL and conversations with principals and school teams and teachers. What we're seeing is that task alignment, so the learning tasks that students are expected to do, we're not seeing it aligned to the full intent of the standard is one of the struggles that we're seeing. And then just also providing scaffolded supports for students to reach mastery of that standard. Our teachers, our leaders are working really, really hard, and they're very receptive to our feedback and the work that we're doing. So we look forward to improved results in the future.
Wonderful, thank you. I know it's a really big organization, and so it's not like you can turn this around overnight, but I'm just curious kind of like where you guys were at with that. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Williams. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to ask, Dr. Larson Mitchell already answered my questions, with Katie, with trustee Williams. I'm sorry, I'm tied here tonight. I wanted to ask, as far as, on the roadblocks on master scheduling, it's something that we have heard for a long time, and I noticed that we're always careful to, on your consistency in your reports, that we're talking about the lack of consistency in the master scheduling. How is that progressing? How is that getting better? What are the tools that you're using on that? Is that something that we hear constantly?
Dr. Larson Mitchell, please.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Brenda Larson Mitchell for the record. So we released a consistent master scheduling timeline in November to our elementary, middle, and high school principals, middle and high school in November, and then just recently to our elementary school principals to provide some consistencies on timelines as far as academic planning, when parents get their schedules. We've also done a lot of work regarding course enrollment. So we use map growth data. We use data first for students to be placed in courses, not just teacher recommendations, but that data so students are placed in the courses that they need to be placed in to challenge them. We also use AP potential with the PSAT. So schools have to use that data first to place students so we can get students into those accelerated courses to push them. So that's part of that master scheduling timeline, those requirements for schools.
Thank you, Dr. Larson Mitchell. That expands, I think that enhances a lot of information that maybe people that are not at the education level are asking. So being the expert on this, what do you see? It sounds like you have all the tools and monitoring and the master plan there. What do you see as the biggest challenges to the implementation? Because I know that you're doing the work and you're getting it out there.
Dr. Larson Mitchell.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Brenda Larson Mitchell for the record, Trustee Cavazos. I would say one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing is just there are new tools, there are new guides. So just making sure that everybody is informed, teachers, counselors, assistant principals, our curriculum APs who are doing a lot of the work, and principals, our principal supervisors. We have monitoring protocols that we use. And so we have those checks to make sure that things are happening, not just to check to make sure things are happening, but to also provide support to make sure that we're implementing all of those resources and tools that have been recently created and just making sure everybody's aware.
Thank you, Dr. Rice-Mitchell. So it sounds like the mentoring and the coaching is ongoing. Thank you so much for the elaboration. I appreciate it.
Thank you, trustee Cavazos. Trustee Guzman.
Thank you. Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I want to thank you for this. This is, of course, data is always fun for me. I kind of want to ask a little bit on your, I think it was page 9, your 9th slide. It had enhancing monitoring tools. And it says that it's a challenge. And I know that that trustee Cavazos just kind of covered it a little bit, but I want to know, what does that look like to a parent, right? To help their child at home so that they can ensure that they're helping them graduate too.
Dr. Jara.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I think trustee Guzman, that is a great question. I think part of it's a comprehensive, and that I just chimed in because it's really important. And I know that Dr. Larson-Mitchell and everything that she talked about in the monitoring tools, how we get that to our parents is critical. For example, and I know that when we look at the placement of our students using data, for example, and we go with macro to the PSAT potential, right? So we share that with the students. And I think one of the things that we need to make sure that we do a better job with, and I'll let the team chime in, is how do we share the AP potential data with the parents? You know, there's other places that in my previous life as a principal, we just got used to send postcards to the parent in a way to celebrate, to say, hey, your child has potential to be in this class, and the parents sometimes didn't know, especially in high school. You know, we were all in high school once, and things we never got to our parents because it is more challenging to be in a top level course in an honors in an AP, and I think that's where we have to push our kids. So that is something that we'll continue to work with and maybe do some. I know there's other schools across the country that share that. They do a potential and bring parents in to say, hey, you have the potential to be in these courses. So it's a work in progress, but I know that the team is really working and communicating with our parents. And I think something that we centrally have to do is I know that we've had these conversations with our parents. We're pushing to do some parent academies to then educate the community, because I think our principals, our counselors, you know, and we know the counselor ratio, the teacher, you know, that's for all of them to get to our students, is how do we then bring this community overall to come in and say, I want to, my kid has the potential, and how do we get it? So a lot of work that we're moving, that is something that we have to.
Great, thank you. Thank you. That was my question. Thank you, trustee Guzman. Trustee Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation. You can see in the data that obviously there seems to be an impact post-COVID. Do you get the sense possible that Washoe maybe wasn't as impacted because they did prioritize keeping schools open? Do you get the sense of there being an impact due to COVID and kids just dropping out, or did you find any trends in the data that suggest that things are going to look up now that we're back in school and we're recovering?
Mr. Mansell.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Brooks. So as we monitor the data on a regular basis, we have a cohort visualization that provides insight into students that would be considered unsuccessful transfers. Obviously, during this time frame, when we were in the pandemic, we did see an increase in the number of students in that consideration. And we do closely monitor to make sure that we are connecting those students as they withdraw to another K-12 institution to have that opportunity and then be considered a successful transfer and not part of the graduation cohort calculation.
Thank you, trustee Brooks. I don't see any more colleagues in the queue, so we're going to take public comments before, and then after public comment, I will ask the colleagues colleague or colleagues to make a motion to accept the presentation. All right, and we'll start with individuals who called in advance. Mr. James Bayless.
Hello, ladies and board, I'm Jara. So I just kind of want to address this 24 thing in the graduation rate. Because you know what sucks? My son was supposed to be graduating that year, but not going to be able to. I find it funny that you guys are talking about parent communication, parent input, parents helping. I have paperwork saying I'm allowed to do that and they're refusing. I have court orders saying I'm allowed to do that and they're refusing it. And it might not be a dropout rate problem. It could be the school pulling kids out and not mentioning nothing about it problem. You know, like my son, basic. My son was pulled out and nobody's addressed it. I've been coming up here even asking for you guys, which kind of goes to the situation of, you know, the paperwork. That hierarchy, that came from the Department of Child Services. That's why they won't be coming at me no more. They watched all my videos from me addressing you guys about my son. So if you guys are the hierarchy, he's not. You're actually his boss. But he seems to kind of make the rules. But so situation is how can you guys sit up here and talk about this? I'm sitting right here knowing damn well what you guys have done to my kid. How can you guys honestly sit here with a straight face in front of these cameras and just all face lie? I'm just curious because I know Miss Lola knows a lot about my situation, and it was quite ironic that she brought up a fact about the dropout situations and, you know, parent communication. When this parent right here has been ignored the whole damn time. This one right here, standing right here, right here. See, right here. But nobody hears me. But the cameras hear me. My cameras hear me. And I have, and because of my son not being able to endure this situation, and here's another fun fact. The 9th grade, since we're talking about the 4-year gap situation, 9th grade distance learning, he wasn't even supposed to graduate, but did. Last year he graduated and he wasn't even on campus. So obviously he didn't get the grades or the credits, but my man made the 11th grade with not even having to be on campus. So you think maybe that 0.2 increase was maybe fraudulent grades that somebody probably put somewhere? Yeah, could be. My kid made the AP honor roll last year, and he wasn't even on campus. How does that happen? So I'm saying with this focus here, you guys might want to focus on telling the truth a little bit on paperwork and maybe actually addressing my son's situation, because you can't call this success. You can't call that success when you're forgetting this one kid. Especially when it says no child left behind, because you're still forgetting that one. Have a good day, guys.
Ms. Binder, and then Adam Talley.
Tampa, speaking as an individual. I really like the multi-tier leveled instruction model. I really think the concept is a great one. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing, and it's the same issue that we've had in this district, and I think until we address the problem more fully of the staffing shortages, we're not going to be able to really meet the needs of our children. And it's been a problem for the 20-something years that I've been in the district. Trying to think, 22, 24. Yeah, I'm losing count here, guys. I'm getting a little old. But, you know, and so the 2 groups of children that are the lowest in graduation rate, and I do wonder about the special types of diplomas. I am lacking in my diligence of doing enough research because I've had some personal things that I've had to take care of. And so I haven't followed as much or done as much research. But sometimes I have a personal life that's kind of fun. Actually, it hasn't been that fun, but that's okay. So my point is that we've got English language learners and special needs children. Their graduation rates, their grades, everything is the lowest. And that is where we're lacking in employees, both special education teachers, and now we're going to be disrupting the instructional assistants and SBTAs that service these children. And I'll talk more about that on public comment. So I think in order for Focus 24, which I have applauded, and I do find a lot of things that I really value and appreciate in that work. But I think until we address the underlying problems, we're not gonna really move forward the way that we want to, that we need to, and I think many of us have been striving for years and years and years. Oh, I had another train of thought and I lost it. Okay, I can't get it back, so perhaps I'll bring it up later, but, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tampa. Ms. Binder?
And I do for the record, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jarrett. As Ms. Tampa said, it's really disheartening to look at the numbers of those that aren't graduating, especially when the entire purpose of an IEP is to facilitate an individualized educational plan so that our special education students can graduate. We're about 8-9 points off from the state performance plan goal for SPED. But I told you guys when I was here the last time, we have kids that aren't even getting to school on time. We have kids that are not even getting transportation. I mean, look at the fiasco at the beginning of the school year last year when our Black and African American students in North Las Vegas were standing out in 115, 20-degree heat at a bus stop or whatever they call it now, trying to get a bus. Do you think those kids want to go to school? Do you think when my kid's bus doesn't show up or it says they're going to be 2 hours late for school, do you think my kids want to go to school? If they're not going to school, they're not learning. So I know the dropout rate isn't really a highlight here, but if we really look at white and Asian students succeeding and almost everyone else is below par to that, and we know comparably from other data that's been produced that when we look at proficiency, the ELL, SPED, and our minorities are right on about the same targets. And so how are we even coming up district-wide with an 80% graduation rate when more than half of our students are not proficient? They can't read, they can't do math. So are we fudging grades somewhere to get kids to graduate who aren't ready to graduate? And then forcing them out into a workforce where they're going to be unskilled labor. I know that we're taking tremendous steps for workforce, college career ready, CTE, all that great stuff, right? But where are we with the kids that are graduating that still cannot read or write? They're not dropping out. We are forcing them forward, just like we've been forcing our elementary kids forward. We're forcing all of the kids forward. And so thankfully, our governor is going to give us a whole bunch of money for next fiscal year. But are we really going to use it to meet our students and our children exactly where they're at and not continue to force them forward in a system that how can they, right? So I look forward to seeing where we're going to make those investments. And I really hope it's not in technology or conferences.
Thank you, Ms. Binder. That concludes our public comment. Colleagues, Trustee Guzman.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we accept the presentation on the graduation rate.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. Trustee Williams.
I'll second.
Colleagues, we have a motion by Trustee Guzman, a second by Trustee Williams. Please cast your vote. That motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Mansell and Mr. Nancy. I appreciate your time. Oh, forgive me. It looks like they're not done. You're not done yet. Don't leave yet. Thank you for not leaving. Dr. Dara.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I failed to mention that in the last presentation, the public is, again, part of our new implementation of the board policy. The presentation was in English and in Spanish. So as this one is as well, but just to clarify, we will not need a vote on this one because this is part of how we monitor our strategic plan goals. This is a formative presentation on our winter math growth data. But we will not be, this is part of what is helping us communicate with the public and with you as board members, how we're targeting for goals on student achievement set up by the Smarter Balance. So this is part of our presentation to you, again, in English and in Spanish, but this one does not.
Thank you, Dr. Jar, for reminding us of that. This item is 3.02. There is no action needed, and as a result, there is no public comment on this particular item. And at this moment in time, is this a good time to turn it over to your team? Welcome back.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, for the record, Dustin Mansell. I am joined by Greg Mancy, our Assistant Superintendent of the Assessment, Accountability, Research, and School Improvement Division. We are here to provide an update on Clark County School District's winter map growth. The winter map growth results represent a formative measure contributing to the vision of the Board of School Trustees through the success priority area for student success, specifically achievement in core content areas. Student achievement was previously discussed during the November 14th, 2019 regular board meeting. During the meeting, trustees received an update on several indicators from Focus 2024 for student achievement, including the annual results on the state assessments. The results included reporting the proficiency in student group gaps from the 2018-2019 state assessment results using the Smarter Balanced Assessment, or SBAC, the ACT, and the State Criterion Reference Test, CRT, in science. Winter map growth progress was shared at the March 24th, 2022 regular board meeting, and the state summative results were shared at the October 13th, 2022 regular board. Within Focus 2024, key strategies are outlined in the areas of strengthen the instructional core and focus attention on students in schools with high needs. Specifically, the MAP growth assessment aligns to these strategies, providing an interim assessment within Clark County School District's balanced assessment system. MAP growth serves as a formative tool used to guide and inform instruction, monitor student progress, and align professional learning opportunities for educators.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jar, Greg Mancy for the record. MAP growth is the signature test in the MAP suite, a collection of purpose-built assessment tools designed to support growth and early literacy for every student. With this aligned assessment system, schools can conduct quick formative assessment in reading and mathematics for students in grades kindergarten through grade 10, and in science for students in grades 3 through 8. MAP growth is a computer adaptive assessment providing a unique set of questions based on student responses to previous questions. The results of MAP growth are designed to measure individual student achievement and growth over time during 3 assessment windows, including the fall, winter, and spring. The MAP growth assessments in reading and mathematics generate a projected proficiency indicator for students in both the Smarter Balanced Assessments and the ACT. The Smarter Balanced Assessment and ACT serve as the annual summative assessments in the Nevada System of Accountability. MAP growth projected proficiency contributes to the Focus 2024 indicator, increase the percent of student proficiency. At the bottom of the slide, you will find the reference to each related linking study conducted by NWEA. For the Nevada Smarter Balanced Linking Study, NWEA utilized the spring 2019 results to derive Rausch units or RIT cut scores that correspond to the Nevada Smarter Balanced achievement levels. For the ACT Linking Study, NWEA used over 500,000 test events from over 80,000 students to predict college readiness using an ACT cut score of 22. For the Nevada System of Accountability, students that take the ACT are considered proficient with an English Language Arts score of 17 and a mathematics score of 20. Each slide outlining progress and results will follow the same reporting format. The title of the chart describes the grades, content area, and measure. The metric, in this case, the percentage projected proficiency, is the scale presented on the left-hand side. The aggregation grouping is described along the bottom axis of the chart, including the student group categories. The legend at the bottom of the slide provides the school year indicator for the results. On the slide, you will find the projected proficiency results for grade 3 through grade 5 in reading. Here we observe improvement for the district and most student groups in the results from the 2021-2022 winter results to the 2022-2023 winter result. We do observe a decrease year over year for the English language learner student group from 16.79% in 2021-2022 to 14.63% in 2022-2023. An important note that you will also find on each data slide is the inclusion of the participation counts for each student school year. For context, the 2019-2020 school year winter assessment occurred prior to the school closures in March 2020. The 2020-2021 winter assessment was administered remotely as students participated in distance learning. Subsequent winter assessments occurred in person. You will note a decline in the participation during 2020-2021 due in part to the remote administration of the assessment. In place of district comparisons, a link is provided to a study conducted by NWEA released in December 2022. The study compares the map growth assessment results in reading and mathematics for nearly 7 million students in grades 3 through grade 8. Specifically, the study compares a pre-pandemic set of students to the assessment results of students impacted by the pandemic. There are two key findings from the study related to the data shared this evening. The first finding includes that academic rebounding in reading and mathematics continued in the fall of 2022. A second related finding includes that even with the continued rebounding, student achievement remains lower than in a typical year, and full recovery is likely several years away, especially for current grade 3 students. As we continue through the presentation, you will find that the district winter results and trends align to the findings of the national study. The next data slide shares the grade 3 winter map growth results aligned to the district goal that the Board of School Trustees agreed to monitor more closely during the February 24th, 2022 regular board meeting. For grade 3, we observed that we have not yet reached recovery, but continue to experience evidence of rebounding rates, including in most student groups. When observing the grade 3 results isolated from the grade 3 through grade 5 results shown 2 slides ago, we identify that the grade 4 and grade 5 achievement is higher, most likely attributed to the fact that more students were already readers when the pandemic impacted learning. The 2022-2023 grade 3 students were impacted during critical years of literacy development. During kindergarten school year, students' learning was interrupted in March of 2020. Most of the students' grade 1 was completed in distance learning during the 2020-2021 school year, and students returned to in-person learning for grade 2 during 2021-2022. What we're experiencing represents a shift in our instructional practices and support for students in grade 3 that do not yet know how to read. The instructional supports, as a result, include preparing educators with scaffolded strategies, a part of the district Tier 1 expectations that were not previously routinely utilized in the instructional practices. It is also important to note that we do not yet have adopted materials in Tier 1 instruction for English language arts. Students in grades 6 through grade 8 demonstrate no change from last year in the projected proficiency for reading, with the most recent district rate of 38.65%. For most student groups, we observe no significant change to the projected proficiency rates. Our final data set in reading shows the projected proficiency on the ACT for high school students in grade 9 through grade 12. Over the 4-year time frame, participation has increased, nearly doubling in the 4 years from 20,995 students in 2019-2020 to 38,748 students in 2022-2023. Students in Nevada are considered proficient in the ACT with a score of 17, representing a lower score than the one used to project proficiency, which is set at 22. In addition, the annual high school proficiency is based on performance of grade 11 students on the ACT, while the data shown on the slide is representative of students in grade 9 and grade 10 that participate in the map growth assessment. The next set of results focuses on the projected proficiency in mathematics for students in grade 3 through grade 5. For the district and most student groups, we observe a positive trend when comparing the 2021-2022 results to the 2022-2023 results, including the Hispanic Latino and Black African American groups, with a near return to rates seen prior to the pandemic. The investment using ESSER funds in Tier 1 instructional materials for mathematics at the elementary level is yielding positive results and contributes to the improvement in the projected proficiency observed on an annual basis. Our final data set is also aligned to the district goal that the Board of School Trustees agreed to monitor more closely during the February 24th, 2022 regular board meeting, and displays the projected proficiency in mathematics for students in grade 6 through grade 8. It is important to provide context around the results for middle school mathematics. You will note at the bottom of the slide an explanation is provided for the change in participation. The results shown in the slide do not include a projected proficiency for students that participate in our course-specific math growth assessments, such as Algebra 1 and Geometry, often representing our highest performing students. The focus on student participation in advanced coursework in middle school aligns to an indicator from Focus 2024. As part of our progress monitoring cycle surrounding the availability of results from the math growth assessment, we regularly provide ongoing professional learning opportunities and progress monitoring tools to guide and inform instruction. The results are utilized by educators during professional learning communities to develop Tier 1 and Tier 2 instructional plans, including scaffolding and differentiation as student supports to access the full and implied intent of the grade level standard. Through the previous adoption of Tier 1 mathematics instructional materials funded through ESSER, educators are supported in this step of developing instructional plans. Educators work with students to set and monitor individualized growth measures and goals, with map growth results available to families in the parent portal and through reports designed for families in English and Spanish distributed by educators. From March to April, educators will administer the Smarter Balanced Assessment for students in grade 3 through grade 8. In March of 2023, we anticipated the state adoption of Tier 1 instructional materials in English Language Arts, which will initiate our district adoption process. We have, however, recently learned that the state may have adjusted the timeline to April 2023. The district adoption of Tier 1 instructional materials for English Language Arts is supported through ESSER funding. In April, educators will administer the Spring Map Growth Assessment, using results to guide and inform instruction to ensure students are accelerating their learning through the end of the school year and into summer acceleration.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, for the record, Justin Mansell. Thank you for this opportunity to share the winter map growth update. We will pause and take any questions the board may have at this time.
Mr. Mansell, Dr. Jara.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just want to commend the team, not only here, but the team and our regional staff. And also, I want to make just if I may, a comment. Our teachers have been working to really try to move the needle. And so a couple of the comments that Mr. Manzi made about the ESSER dollars that were used because of the lack of funding that we have received for the first time. I mean, this has been something that I've learned as soon as I came in, that we had to purchase instructional materials for our educators. Our educators didn't have the resources until the federal government stepped in and we purchased. So the numbers are going to start improving, right? Because when you go into our schools, into our PLCs, you see our teachers learning and principals are saying there's so much coming in at the same time. We added science, we added math, and unfortunately, we just heard recently that the state delayed the English Language Arts, which makes it more challenging for our educators to be able to teach. Because if you look at, I would say it's not a stool, and there's the three pillars for successful school systems in America are curriculum aligned to the standards. We just adopted math and science. We still need ELA, English Language Arts, professional learning, which the team has been including and training our educators as fast as they can, and the assessment. You heard about the assessment. So those three pillars, we're still missing one from the state. So not an excuse. I just want you to know that we will continue to push as fast as we can with the resources that we have. Our educators are working hard, and see some of my conversations with them, we need time, we need more time. And I understand that, and that's something that the team is working really hard at our schools to be able to deliver on behalf of children, and then you're gonna see the acceleration.
Thank you, Dr. Jara. Trustee Guzman?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions about, thank you for this presentation. Sorry, I got, Dr. Jara actually answered one of my questions, so it set me back a little bit. That's okay, no problem. So I wanted to ask you about the ELL students. I want to know how we're delivering the MAPS assessment to them. Are we doing it in their home language, or are we doing it only in English?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Greg Manzi for the record. There is an opportunity for the assessment to be delivered in Spanish for the students, to be able to assess their proficiency with the content in their native language. But we do also encourage making sure they do take the assessment also in English, so we have that data to be able to work with.
May I ask a follow-up? So can I just ask you about that a little bit? So do you take, so if they take it in their home language and they take it in English, do you average that? How do you utilize those numbers?
Mr. Manzi. Mr. Manzi.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Guzman, we do look at the Greg Manzi for the record. We look at the information that's available to the educators to be able to see how the students performed in their native language, to plan their instruction for the student and then provide their scaffolds. And we also have the information for the general assessment that they would have taken and where we look at the results, because they do have to perform, within the smarter balance with limited translations and the different accommodations. We have to look at their performance there as well.
So for the students that their home language is not Spanish, do we only offer it in English for them? Because I just went to your CCSD Family Center and it was amazing, but we do not just have Spanish speakers.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Greg Manzi for record, Trustee Guzman. In terms of the other availability, currently it's only in Spanish for the MAP growth assessment.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. I have a couple of questions, if I may. Can you share, I want to learn a little bit more about the delay of the approval of ELA curriculum from the state and its impact on our students / educators. I heard, Dr. Dara, that you shared earlier that this delay will impact us in a really critical way. I'd love to learn a little bit more. It's important to share a little bit more what that actually looks like.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, for the record, Dustin Mansell. President Garcia Morales, the delay is occurring somewhere within the state's process. The actual review committee completed the review and recommendations on time. We do have members from our Literacy and Language Development Department who are part of that state's review committee. Everything was completed. It was submitted following the correct procedure as a committee, is what I've been informed. I was initially informed that because they were on time, that it would go to the Board of Education for the state in March or on March 16th. And then most recently this week, we had been informed that it would not go now until April 6th. That delay will push us back again by about a month. The critical component here is that we need to ensure that all of our schools who want these materials, one, are opting in, that we can select the appropriate materials here in our district and afford that opportunity to all of our schools, develop the professional learning to roll it out during the summer so that our teachers are not overwhelmed receiving all of this professional learning on the first day of return in August. So having a full professional learning plan where teachers have availability to engage in the curriculum, the materials, the resources that are available in this Tier 1 set over the summer so that they can truly plan and dig into it and start developing lessons and become comfortable with how to deliver the material is critical. So that's going to definitely shorten the timeline. Also, in addition to that is the purchasing. We don't know what sort of restraints will be there when we select a vendor and whether or not they'll have the materials to support a district with 300,000 students.
Very good. To be clear, April, the items potentially are expected to come before the state board to be approved. And then once that is approved, then it comes down to us to make, to follow kind of a series of events to develop training, to select a curriculum and then develop training and then get it in the hands of our educators who turn around in preparation for the 23-24 school year. Is that correct, Dr. Mancy, Mr. Mancy? Mansell?
That is correct.
April to the school year starts in August is a very, very short timeline. And I just want to, for the record, indicate that we know that we can do a lot of things. We've been able to do a lot of things that are very hard and challenging. Accountability is an important component of our work. It has been stated in the record over and over again how CCSD needs to be accountable time and time again, and will be accountable, absolutely. We have, I think it's also important to ensure that other partners who we're working with are also held accountable for everybody across the state, because this not only impacts, of course, CCSD, but everyone. And I just want to point for the record that we have a responsibility to ensure that our kids have the curriculum they need, the educators have the curriculum they need to be successful. One last thing that I have in terms of question is the difference between the SBAC and the MAPS. SBAC, from what I understand, is a state required mandated test versus the MAPS, and kind of I'd love to hear a little bit more about the frequency between the SBAC and the MAPS and why we have the MAPS in addition to the SBAC exams. Mr. Mancy.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara. So the math assessment is offered 3 times throughout the school year in reading and mathematics. It affords us the opportunity to plan instructionally to provide a benchmark in the beginning of the school year for our students, adjust our instruction in the winter to then plan for and make our groupings, learn what the students have captured at this point of the year to plan going forward. We then have our Smarter Balance assessment, which is offered 1 time per school year in reading and mathematics for most of our students, grades 3 through 8. It's in 2 parts, so it's a little bit longer of an assessment, but that is considered our state summative assessment.
Thank you. The technical language is a state summative assessment. And we utilize the MAPS to help inform instruction, instruction, but also placement classes. I just want to clarify that for the record, that we often hear from our community saying that there are a lot of tests, but yes, that may be the case, although this district brought the MAPS assessment as a need. It sounds like as a result of a need that Smarter Balance assessment is not at all. Excuse me, Dr. Jara.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, and that I couldn't resist because I do have to. There are some states that are moving because the overburden on testing. I totally agree. There's federal requirements, and the federal government requires it's a Smarter Balance that we selected. Other states selected different tests. We're part of that cohort. One of the things that we're having some conversations, and maybe Mr. Mancy kind of teeing him up, but there's some states, Alaska's doing one, Nebraska, Indiana, I believe, is another one where they're moving to a through assessment. Because to me, we get Smarter Balance, the kids are moved on to the next grade. There's very limited information, yet you get that kind of summative assessment. What Alaska, which is a model that we like as superintendents here at Nevada, which is NWEA's kind of through assessment. They do the fall, the winter, and then they've turned that last one to a more summative to meet that federal requirement. So, we're really interested in that because it takes away that extra assessment for our students, but then it's data that we can then use to then support our educators and support our children. So that Mr. Manzi could talk a little bit more about what that through assessment, because I think that is that helps our teachers, it helps our parents and our kids obviously as well. So
Thank you. Mr. Nancy?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara. So there is some exploration happening nationally in through assessments. There's a mix of how they are delivered, whether they're fixed form with some computer adaptive components, all contributing and leading towards that summative assessment that would then count for the state accountability piece. So we do have a monthly collaboration with all the Council of Great City Schools, specifically with NWA focus, where we have these types of conversations to see what we're doing to help reduce testing time, talk about our implementations and see where we head nationally to be a little more efficient and provide relevant data for our educators to work with throughout the school year.
Excellent, thank you. I'll just share one more thing before I turn it over to Trustee Galazos, is that my son knows his math test scores, he does not know his SBAT scores. And I'm proud of him for knowing his math test scores because that helps him stay accountable to himself. Grateful for that. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Trustee Galazos.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you both for this presentation. I just had a really quick follow-up to something that Trustee Guzman had said, and I'll make it brief because I am thrilled to see that we have students here tonight and they've been waiting very patiently to be able maybe possibly to speak tonight. When we were talking about the facilitation for our newcomers, our students that not only just need our Spanish speakers, but they are refugees and they're coming from many different countries. So just briefly, what kind of facilitation are we doing for them? So obviously, we don't have them in all the different languages, the maps.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Shara, Dustin Ansel for the record, Trustee Cavazos. The MAP assessment is a formative measure. It is not a high stakes measure. So it can be administered in a small group. It could be administered one-on-one. It could be whole group. If a teacher has that background knowledge, which they do, that a student is a newcomer to the country or to their school, they could even sit down with them and maybe help finesse some of the language as they're going through it, understanding how much support they're providing. Again, it's a formative assessment. It is there to help the teacher support their instruction, drive the instructional supports for the student. It's not high stakes.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I think that a lot of the public sometimes doesn't understand, the formative and the summative. I sometimes am asking just for the constituents. And also, as Trustee Guzman mentioned, when we did the Family Support Center tour the other day, I was like so amazed and thrilled with what they are offering there, and that even with the intakes that they do have, on an outsourced basis, able to bring people in who do speak that language. And I realize that this is a formative assessment, we do not have all those resources. So I thank you for that elaboration. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Trustee Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a follow-up question about the ELA adoption. I know that we've gone into great detail about it, but I'm trying to understand the process at the state level and the delay specifically, because that's still 2 months from now. Was there a reason given for the delay, and where does this item normally appear on their agenda? Is the delay because there's some elaborate presentation, or is this a consent agenda? I know you don't actually work for the Department of Education, but if you've gone through this process before, what did it look like?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Dustin Mansell for the record, Trustee Brooks, I can make that a priority and get that response to you.
Okay, sorry, I did not mean to put you on the spot. I was genuinely curious on why it would be pushed off of this, because this is something that would, in our board, would be on a consent agenda, and it would take about 5 days. So if we could figure that out, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. Trustee Zamora. Trustee Zamora.
Thank you. As Superintendent Jara mentioned about resources and everything, and as we talk about the family center, are there any plans to kind of do a more intentional partnerships with them to possibly create a space for you know, to doing tutor sessions or anything, because I was looking at the map data. And it's just it's decreasing through the numbers, so something about math, some math nights or anything like that.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Shara, Dustin Mansell for the record, and Trustees Zamora. Yes, I know that our Chief of Staff is currently working on additional family resources, and there is a partnership between that unit along with the Assessment, Accountability, Research, and School Improvement Division, the Curriculum and Instruction Division, providing additional supports to our families in the community. They're really discussing and digging into their math growth, assessment results, the curriculum or resources that are available, including paper, our tutoring that is provided to all of our students.
Awesome. I just wanted to bring it up so our folks know as well that that center is there. I think a lot of folks forget that it's there and it's a great resource place. And I'm glad to see that we're implementing what we're seeing and all these numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. No more questions, colleagues? Mr. Mansell, Mr. Mancy, thank you so much for your presentations today. Great. Colleagues, we're going to move on to item 4.01. That's public comment on items not listed as agenda items. Before we continue on to 4.01, is there anyone who has not had a chance to complete a public speaker card? This is the time to do so. Yellow public speaker cards. There are no additional cards that need to be submitted. We will move on and start with we're going to move on with the individuals who signed up in advance. Mr. Bayless, followed by Nicole Miller, Gabrielle Macavad.
How you guys doing today? Ladies of the board, Superintendent, Board Director Jara. So my situation is that as we've been talking about compliance, since August 2nd, when I refused to sign an agreement between me and Daniel for my son's transfer because they botched up his transfer, ever since that day, I've heard nothing else back. Keep in mind, we're still in a due process and the appeal factor. And if you look at that hierarchy you guys got, and then it has the superintendent as the big boss. And then it has the superintendent second level. But also it says general compliance. Nowhere does it say director of compliance. It says general counsel's in charge of all legal proceedings, not director of compliance. So I called general counsel and asked them to reach out and to help me solve the situation. They said that they don't have no jurisdiction over this situation. But Bob Sweden, when he was my attorney, when Dan tried to hold us out in September, when I was trying to get the basic, general compliance was the one that forced Dan to make them move us. So, well, maybe. The factor is when Gerald Bustamante and Danny Bahara have kind of corresponded this whole saga since September 29th when I tried to get out of the basic, everything that's going on, everything I'm talking about is our director of compliance and the principal of Madam School. So if those two people were openly able to break the law with no questions asked, not even a moral compass raised, there could be a problem. The fact that you guys are up here with this 2024 thing, my son's not going to be able to graduate in 24 because as it stands, he's 3 years back on his academics in high school since his freshman year, distance learning. That's why we had to go to due process. He's supposed to be put back to 9th grade, but now instead of doing that, you guys have blown through 3 years of what he's supposed to be going back to 1. So now we're going to be having a 17-year-old, close to 18-year-old kid going back to the 9th grade. Because when I'm done with government board, he won't be going back to 9th grade. There won't be no discussion about that. And that's the thing is when I'm done, if I have to exceed to go to government court to deal with this, our demeanors will be changing a lot. Because then I hold no respect for none of you people. if I have to go through that trouble to do your job for you. Because the bottom line is, if you read that hierarchy, everything I've said, all I have to do is put up that piece of paper on a bulletin board, show my videos from this meeting, and sit back and eat popcorn. I wouldn't get the case without even trying.
Gonna move on. Paul Miller. Then Gabrielle Makaba. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Nicole Miller, and I'm a student here in Nevada. Within school, I'm a youth legislator for District 20. And through that role, I've held town hall meetings. And one of the central concerns that came up was the youth mental health crisis. And I think that that's a really big thing that students are facing right now. Nevada has been ranked 51st in youth mental health consistently and consecutively since 2015. And we have approximately 1 counselor for every 2,200 students, while the recommended federal ratio is 1 counselor for every 500 to 700 students. Approximately 18% of Nevada's youth is struggling with depressive episodes. And in 2020, 71% of these depressive episodes went untreated. I wanted to ask if there was a possibility to help improve this crisis by raising the student to counselor ratio in order to help the youth, because at my town hall meeting, none of the students knew who their counselors was, and I think that that was one of the biggest concerns was their mental health. None of them had ever once met with a counselor, and that was about 20 students at that meeting. We also have a huge youth mental health issues to prison pipeline, so a lot of the students who have youth mental health issues are ending up in the juvenile system. 70% of those students in the juvenile system have mental health issues. So it's creating a large issue with a pipeline to the prison system. So today I'm asking if there's anything that can be done to help resolve this issue in order to help the youth seek assistance and get the help they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Gabrielle. Please state your name into the record.
For the record, my name is Gabrielle Makababa. Good evening, board members, Madam President, Superintendent Jara. I'm a youth legislator and I represent the students of District 11. Nevada schools constantly rank 49 out of 50th in the nation. It's in the bottom 20% in education. Resolutions to significantly improve Nevada's education. It's a common proposal brought up by the people and the legislators. We see it in opinion articles and we hear it from many students as well. So I want to make suggestions to improve Nevada's education system by utilizing recreational systems for specific and targeted educational intervention and opportunities that aren't offered in traditional schools. I think the first step would be to push for more opportunities being made available and aware to the student population. A lot of the students in my school, they didn't know that paper was a tutoring opportunity made available, so I'm glad that it was brought up in this meeting. But bringing up opportunities and making it more aware to the students would be, students would be able to develop and hone in on their passions. And the use of recreational facilities are usually administered and they're funded by municipal government agencies. Even my school has begun to use the Henderson Multi-Generational Center for after-school activities. But a lot of the recreational facilities that we have right now, they're not really utilized. And Nevada does have various programs for youth innovation in technology and other activities for them to hone in on their passions, but these opportunities marginalize underprivileged students. So with more opportunities to learn outside of school made available and aware to students, it could possibly encourage children to learn more about essential topics that are not taught in school, such as personal finance and cutting-edge technology and hands-on and interactive learning environment. Stimulating education is successful when students would be less inclined to feel pressure with letter grades as they form more connections in their learning journey. And interaction plays an important role in learning, as it has proven to be effective in assisting students to organize their thoughts, find gaps in their reasoning, and reflect with diversification of ideas. And so if we make these opportunities more available and aware to the students, then it would increase the learning opportunities and therefore their ability to expand their education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Samantha Lyle, and then Michael Dexter.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Samantha Lyle. I am a CCSD student, and I'm also an Nevada Youth Legislator representing District 7. When 3 out of 4 students are struggling with moderate or severe psychological distress, and when 12.7% of youth in Nevada alone are struggling with severe depression, I can't help but ponder solutions to address the mental health crisis that has deeply impacted many of my peers. I know other people have come up here and talked about it, and it really is one of the biggest issues that's affecting our youth. Like many in our district, my school greatly lacks mental health professionals. Most CCSD school psychologists are spread thin and shared between 2, sometimes 3 schools. And I know in the current status quo, it's been difficult to fill those spots, but I'm asking you to look for out-of-the-box solutions to ensure that even though we're short-staffed, kids can still get the help that they need. I'm asking you to share resources and connect families with a comprehensive list of outside therapists, psychiatrists, and other mental health professionals in our community that can serve our youth. Whether it's the continuance of CCSD partnerships with nonprofits such as the United Citizens Foundations, or shedding a light on resources that parents and students are often unaware of, such as getting mental health help at the Boys and Girls Clubs, or even a detailed list of therapists and psychiatrists that parents can go to that's in close proximity in their communities. That's one of the biggest issues that a lot of parents are facing is, where do I send my child to get some help? It's a big decision to make, and it's often difficult for a lot of parents. I want to shed light on the issues and ensure that every student can tackle their mental health issues with a professional. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. I called out Michael Dexter next. I also want to make sure I see us the other student. And Mr. Dexter, come on up. I just, before you begin, I want to ensure that I acknowledge a student who's also my friend, Devika? Yeah. Devika? Okay, you'll go after Mr. Dexter.
Yeah, Michael Dexter, I'm a Clark County School District employee. I'm just here to speak on things that are going on with the Grounds Department, Irrigation Department out of Cheyenne. They're located in Cheyenne and just off the MLK. And the reason I'm saying this is we're 97% African American and Hispanic. Our supervisors say stuff like the yard from hell, they just don't, we ought to be happy to have a job. Maybe we should get rid of all you guys and get some Hispanics to do your job, stuff like that. Even with the promotion as far as another position, we had 5 supervisor positions come up open, and they change the wording every time we go to apply. You used to have a certified state license, have 2 years in grounds, 2 years in irrigation. They wiped that away. Now we got guys that came over and excuse me, guys that's from the printer shop, guys that's from heavy equipment that has no clue about what's going on with irrigation grounds. We've had 4 trees die this year, 4 pumps burn up, and just because of the supervisors that they're bringing their friends in. Right now, they're making a position for another regional supervisor. They already know who they're going to put in place, and they know who they're going to replace him. He's a supervisor. So it's not a fair process as far as when we put our name down on the list to interview. And what they'll tell you after the interview is it's not because they score the interviews, and they'll say, well, it's not who get the highest score. It's who fits the best that we think we do the best job. And all I'm asking you guys is, could you take a look into what's going on? We had, as far as a reprimand raise, they're supposed to change our pay raise. It's been sitting on his desk for the last 3 months. He said he'll sign it when he get ready. And I mean, I don't think it's fair. We come out there and we do our job just like every other yard. And all I'm asking is if you guys would come and look into it and see what's going on. And I don't want to say their names because I know it's probably going to be some repercussions for me coming up here speaking, letting you guys know what's going on. And I know a lot of you don't look down at the grounds department and see what's going on. But I wish you would take a look into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dexter. Ms. Devika?
Can you teach me how to say your last name?
Butnager?
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Yes. For the record, my name is Devika Butnager. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Jara. My name again is Devika Butnager, and I am a current junior at Liberty High School. I'm also in the Nevada Youth Legislature representing youth in Senate District 5. I'm here today advocating for myself, my peers, and other students in CCSD. Suicide prevention isn't addressed as much in schools or talked about in classes. Every school I go into or anyone I talk to says there may be a couple of posters of the suicide prevention hotline, and mainly only health teachers talk about suicide prevention on their topic of mental health. But what about the students that don't look at the poster, or those students that weren't there at the school when their health teachers were talking about mental health just that day? There can be many posters about this, but most students don't even pay attention to it. They just take a peek as they walk and move on with their day. Posters do not do much. Talking does. Communication does. But because no one talks about suicide prevention as much in schools, ensuring that there are hotlines and people you could talk to is why suicide rates have been increasing gradually among teenagers. With suicide being the second leading cause of death from ages 10 to 14, there should be more attention drawn to suicide prevention in schools. This means more school assemblies and announcements addressing to the students that there are resources and hotlines available, and many people talk to, and how the school counselors can help as well, and the teachers addressing this issue in their classes, so at least the students in their school know that their school and CCSD care about their mental health and well-being. For students that struggle with their mental health or need someone to talk to, their school should be a key setting for prevention and help. And every staff member and teacher should be an important resource for sharing hotlines and information about preventing suicide, because no student deserves to be left out or think that their school doesn't care about their mental health. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you, Devika. Vicky Friedel and Autumn Tampa. Vicky here. Autumn Tampa. After Autumn, it's Anna Binder, Willa by Waters, and David Willis. Tampa, speaking as an individual, I've got to say that my heart is very touched by all the speakers here tonight, especially the student stories, and by the others who spoke this evening, and I thank them for coming and doing that. My feelings have ranged from deep sadness to deep disappointment, and then anger about what I have heard is happening to the Title I schools and employees here at CCSD. Once again, CCSD is balancing the budget by cutting the salaries of support staff, and more specifically, those education support professionals who work with our most vulnerable students. Those who make the least and have the least are getting more taken away. Shame on all of you. Every time I think it cannot get worse, it does, and it really, really disappoints me. And I have to wonder why. Have backroom deals been made? What logic and reason was used to make the decision to raise the percentage to designate a school as Title I to a drastically high 75% of free and reduced lunch students? And what about the supposed $2 billion extra dollars that our governor is going to provide? I would also ask if all of the federal guidelines are going to be followed. I am wondering how and why federal funding for Title I schools can be cut so drastically. Making this change is doing a disservice to our most vulnerable children. It will put undue burdens and hardships on principals, teachers, and education support professionals, and it will create a more negative school climate. An education employee's working environment is a child's learning environment. This is going to hurt thousands of our students. This is going to pile more and more on those who are already past the breaking point. And the children who need our extra support and services most will not get what they need and deserve to succeed in life. I am heartbroken. I am sick to my stomach, and I am flabbergasted. I would ask, I would implore, I would beseech you to reconsider the reduction of the Title I schools designation. Give all the schools what they need and give all the students the services and education that they need and deserve. Thank you.
Tampa. Anna Bynum. Camilla Bywaters. David Gomez.
Camilla Bywaters, president of the Las Vegas Alliance of Black School Educators, co-chair for education for the National Action Network. I have literally changed my whole public comment because of what I just heard from members who work on the grounds department. This is not the first time that this type of situation has been reported. I have been waiting for ages for individuals in that department to come up and speak up for themselves. I have on record that people in that department, which we know are mostly minorities, have stated that working for the grounds department is like being a slave. That sounded like a formal complaint of discrimination and harassment. That sounds like EEOC, Office of Civil Rights, and it really sounds like a class action lawsuit to me because it's on record. Lovisa has put it on record several times. And what people have to understand is that when you're going through harassment and discrimination in the workplace, you can't keep the information in your journals. You have to make a formal complaint. So when the OCR comes out, when the EEOC comes out, they want to see when you told the people who were discriminating against you or harassing you to stop. This is the stop. Whoever the and I have no problem. If I knew their names, I would say it. Whoever you are, stop. This is your notice to stop harassing Hispanic and Black workers in this district. And from this day, what is today? Because I'm hot now, January 26th. If anything happens to the gentleman that came up here to report the incident, that is retaliation. And we're going to be watching. Any of the gentlemen that showed up here tonight, any of the gentlemen that are behind supporting, write all their names down. Write all the names down of the people who are reporting this incident, because we're going to give it to you. If anything happens from this day forward to continue on with discrimination and harassment, we have it on record. Enough is enough. And I was trying to talk about the children that came in here tonight, but that has me hot because you know what? You know what's happening. I'm sure you have reports. This is not the first time you've heard it, but no, when it's Black people and Hispanic people doing the most important work in this district, you don't care. So this is the formal notice of complaint. Get the names written down so we know if there's retaliation, we can report it. There's a price to pay. There's a price to pay when you want to treat people any kind of way. Let me know their names.
Thank you, Ms. Bywaters. Mr. Gomez?
David Gomez, president of the REPRISAL Alliance, founder of Seven Children. This retaliation stuff has been on for long. I do investigation meetings with staff from the bus yard, and I see so many things that I just, besides myself, want to throw up at times on how they treat Blacks. And she's right. I watch a lot of different things that happen. The disproportionate of how they treat others versus others. I'm not going to go into the race code or code, but nevertheless, you know, Miss Zamora knows who is to be attacked. I was there at Rancho High School that day. We were ready to go. I saw the whole thing. I saw when they were trying to attack you in front of your children. I saw when they were trying to do anything and everything to stop you and your husband who were peacefully assembling and just talking and standing up for what you wanted and what you believed in. I saw it happen. And there was nothing I can do about it, but obviously Clark County Election Department came to your rescue and said, oh, the person, stop. That's enough. So you know what it is to be attacked from all sides. And these issues, I understand you guys as trustees, you only have so much power and capacity to go and bring it up to the jar and whomever else to say, hey, this is what we need done, or this is what we want looked into. And I know it only goes so far as like throwing a rock, and as far as you can see it, that's it. You know, if you hit something, you might hit something, and you didn't. I'm not saying that jar is responsible for this, but this is a big moving machine that obviously he had to take over. There's a lot of things that have been here from a long time ago, because I've been here very long, watching all of this. And one of them is that I don't appreciate that, you know, you guys are doing things to support staff. Thinking like, that's very typical money. Come on, we're really, you know, think about what you're doing about this. But I really came up here to pray for you guys. That's what I really came to. And I'm gonna pray, and I don't care if anybody bows their head or whatever they have to do, but I'm here to pray for you guys, because this is a new year, new session, and new issues, but you guys really need God with, and if you really focus on the children, God will take care of it. Heavenly Father, I ask you to be with these people, to guide their minds and to guide their hearts, to be the step that they need to get to where they need to get to let them be the voice for us, the Black and Hispanics that are disproportionate in such situations. But Heavenly Father, you know who's who, because you know every man's heart. And Lord, I thank you for those who do want to do your will. And I thank you for those who want to stand up for you, Heavenly Father, and do the right thing by us. And Lord, I ask you to soften the hearts of those who have been hardened by the things that have been said and accused against them, and give them peace, Lord, so that they can do things for our children and us. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Colleagues, at this time, we're going to move on to item 5.01, upcoming meeting of the Board of Trustees, work session, Wednesday, February 1st at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. Move on to item 6, adjournment. Trustee Guzman.
Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I'd like to move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. I will second that motion.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Colleagues, we have a motion by Trustee Guzman, a second by Trustee Cavazos. Please cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Time is 6:46. Have a great evening.